AFRINIC21 as an organization to provide education and leadership on matters around the internet, formed by people like Vinsaf. Currently, we have more than 100 organization members, thousands of individual members, and several chapters worldwide. That's just showing the number of chapters that we have across the world. In Africa, we have 29, Europe 28, Asia Pacific 17, and then North America 9, and 12 in Latin America. The priorities and activities that we mainly engage in involve around fostering an open and innovative trusted internet worldwide, and advancing policies and strategies that strengthen the internet, enabling a vibrant organization and vital global community, and empowering people to achieve human potential through unencumbered internet use. So I'll start off by briefly summarizing or describing how we see spam. So a number of ways, depending on who you ask, people have their own interpretations or their own classifications of what spam is. Generally, it can be classified as unsolicited bulk email, commercial email, or generally mail that people do not want. How much spam is there in the world right now, online right now? It's very difficult to say exactly because it depends who you ask. Your network provider, your ISP, will have his own statistics. Many people in terms of like companies or banks also have their own statistics. But generally, the number of email messages that come in, about 80% or more are spam messages. So that slide sort of summarized some of the recent metrics that have been done by various organizations that just aim to see how much spam is there really in the world right now. So some recent studies seem to indicate that there are 3.3 billion mailboxes in the world, about 247 billion emails per day, of which 70% or more is spam. So we can see most of the email you will receive is spam. So what do we mean by unsolicited email? We've all received messages that from people we don't know, people don't recognize, and these messages will say that you've won an award, or please send some money to help me, or a promotion that on a product that's being sold, and messages that look like they come from our banks or from our employers and so on. What are the main problems that are caused by spam? So they undermine users' confidence in using email. In terms of when you receive emails, even from valid senders, it's difficult to determine whether is this a real email or is this a phishing attack? What's going on here? They deceive recipients about who sent the message. Large volumes of spam can severely drain a network or compromise the efficiency of a network. We've seen in my previous job where I was before I joined Internet Society, we had cases where an uplink network would be fully pumped or fully filled up because of spam emails being generated from a botnet that was within a network. If you have a really serious spam problem and you have thousands of accounts, it may mean that you need to invest in a lot of hardware to address the spam, filter the spam out and stop the spam. It will also mean that you need to train users on how to identify spam, and you'd also need to train someone technical on how to install technical measures to slow down the spam. Unsolicited email also become a delivery mechanism for malware, viruses, and as you've seen also from the earlier presentations, phishing attacks. Weakens trust in e-commerce. I'm sure you've all received emails that claim to be from banks of which you have accounts. And many spam incidences always result in some sort of security breach. So you saw earlier the presentation that, I don't remember his name, but he said estimates are there are about 10 million phishing attacks in a day. So those are people trying to obtain specific information so that they can execute certain security breaches. So growth and cost of spam. So addressing spam, even just at an individual level, would mean a waste of time in terms of man hours, technical hours in terms to solve the problem, and also, as we've seen, bandwidth and network connectivity would also slow down. Users must dedicate part of their time to identify the emails, go through the inboxes, which will also mean, as I said, lots of wasted man hours. Cost of bandwidth wasted by spam depends on the network. If you're on a network that's full of botnets, it'll mean most of your capacity is probably being used to transmit spam. It is essential to put a stop to spam to save time, money, and bandwidth. So what does a spammer need? Spammer needs basically 3 elements: a list of email addresses, contacts to send the emails to, content to be sent. I gave the example of a product being advertised, or if it's a phishing attack, trying to send a message to people to get them to obtain or to send out their bank information or usernames and credentials and so on. And lastly, a means to send it. And the internet has obviously become a very good way to do it. There are also other types of spam which I will not go into. There's also social media spam. You can also get spam SMSs, but I'll focus mainly on email spam. So what are some of ISOC's activities in trying to address and combat spam currently? So currently we are working with expert communities to develop what we call a spam toolkit. We are working with the Messaging Malware Mobile Anti-Abuse Working Group, also known as MOG, and they are providing input to help or to improve the content that's on our spam toolkit. We also work with the Internet Engineering Task Force, and the IETF has developed key authentication protocols to help in combating spam or reduce the amount of spam. These are things like DKIM, domain keys, identified mail, and so on. We're the one doing that. And we're also working with the London Action Plan, or LAP. This is an intergovernmental international organization that focuses on cross-border enforcement and best practices development. And they're also providing materials that we are using in our spam toolkit. ISOC also partners with the ITU Development Bureau, and there's a link on that slide there. You can see more about it. The intention is to bring technical experts from the internet community to assist and share experiences, work on developing guides and best practices based on experiences and examples from experts, and to establish mentors that so that there's a means to establish sustainability and support between experts and individuals working to establish spam initiatives. A bit on ISOC's spam project. We have a toolkit of documents and materials that talk about spam, some technical measures that you can do to reduce spam. ISOC has organized a number of workshops for the policymakers to inform them what they can do, some of the policies around spam, what they can do to address spam, and also technical seminars which are done in conjunction with the people we're working with, like MOG, LAP, and so on. We have a spam toolkit. This is a website repository for material for policymakers and technical community. It contains a lot of introductory material translated and provided in English, French, and Spanish. It also contains information about a number of RFCs that you can read about that try to address spam. And there's a link there to where you can see more about the spam toolkit. That is internetsociety.org/spam toolkit. We also have a number of online training modules that we are working on. Right now, we are partnering with LAP and MOG to use their material to develop a self-paced training module. We expect the first module to be ready sometime next month in December 2014, and final module to be posted in the spam toolkit and shared with LAP and MOG. So from next month and 2015 onwards, there'll be more material online that you can get from Internet Society. So just to summarize our activities, we are partnering with experts because it's going to take the community, not really one organization, but it needs a partnership of organizations to address spam. So what are some of the respective roles of various players on the internet in terms of addressing spam? So everyone has a role in addressing spam. ISOC believe that everyone has a role. Experts, the technical community, the government, industry, ISPs, and users. I will quickly go through some of the roles of the various players in the internet, what they can do. So for the governments, one thing they can do is define spam, because what is classified as spam varies between different countries, and it will vary also for the country you're in. So one thing the government, a government, or if you're a part of the government, is to define what spam is, work with experts to determine how to classify and identify the spam and so on, how spam can be reported, when there are incidences of spam, how they can be reported and logged, and then declare that spam is illegal, and then enforce the law if there is a law that's going to be developed. And then work with the industry experts and the technical community to collaborate on ways to address the problem. What's the role of the technical community? This is to examine solutions, develop standards like the IETF, what the IETF does, prepare best practice guidelines. These may vary based on your working environment. Work with policymakers and function as a trusted source of information in terms of how to combat spam, how to report spam, and so on. For ISP and network operators, probably the ones that bear the most brunt in terms of spam, because they have to relay a lot of emails or store emails for a lot of the users. One thing you can do if you're an ISP is train your users on how to identify spam messages and also come up with mechanisms for them to report back on emails that they have sent that are spam, that can allow you to identify the email better in the future and prevent it from coming through. Collaborate with other ISPs as well. Share information on what you've identified as spam. And by doing that, it will help the community in terms of the more emails that are identified as spam, the less users can be affected in the long run. Lastly, adopt industry-based standards and best practices, things like SPF, Center Policy Framework, where you categorically say from this domain, email is only allowed to come from this server. PTR records, I think these were also discussed early in the morning, where you declare your DNS records and have IP addresses that match your host name. DKIM, DMARC, and other mail filtering techniques. There are several techniques out there that you can use that can not really stop spam, but would at least reduce the amount of email you get. And most of these are quite effective. It's going to take a mixture of all these techniques to slow down or at least increase the accuracy of how you identify spam and how much you can stop. So what is the role of the users? Users need to get educated on how to avoid their email addresses becoming targets of spam. Not really, don't publish your email somewhere online and so on. How to recognize spam, especially spam emails and SMSs and so on, and what to do when you receive spam. So if you're a user, what do you do once you receive an email? How can you relay back to your network provider or your network manager on what to do? Also, businesses should be educated on best practices, how not to spam when marketing. Many businesses, when they want to launch their products, they'll blast out emails. Those emails end up being spam. Those who do not follow the rules or code of conduct should be advised and told to stop what they're doing, of course. So some of the lessons that we have learned so far as ISOC. It needs a multi-stakeholder cooperation to address spam. It's not really people sitting down and finding solutions, but all of us coming together to find a way to slow it down. There's not a lot of collaboration going on. It is there a bit, but it needs to be a bit more in order to come up with real outcomes on how to slowing down spam. Spam is a cross-border problem, and solutions require international coordination. There's a lack of multi-stakeholder dialogue between all parties, and this also complicates anti-spam measures. So basically what this means is it needs all of us from different organizations that have a role in the internet. It's going to take everyone to come together to address spam. It's a fine balance in terms of internet access. As internet access grows, broadband becomes more widely available, and there is an increased need to bridge the awareness gap in dealing with unsolicited form of spam, of emails and communication known as spam. The big challenge for networks is dealing with the sheer volume of spam generated and broadcast by illegal organizations. So those of you who are in the room and have seen a growth or change, so for example, maybe you're on a VSAT link and suddenly you're on a fiber link, and this also correlates with the amount of spam you send or receive. In my previous job where I worked, we got undersea capacity in about 2009, and that's when our security issues escalated almost tenfold, because once your latencies improve, and it doesn't only mean that the internet is fast to you, it means other people on the internet can reach you faster. So it means as soon as you're able to, as you see an increase or growth in your internet capacity, it also means you need to strengthen your policies in terms of how you deal with security and so on. Some points to ponder. As a broadband market expands, it's important to focus on improving security policies, which I've just said. Approaches to spam mitigation should be multi-stakeholder. Effective anti-spam measures raise the cost of doing business for spammers by increasing the steps they have to take to conduct spam. Leverage open, transparent, and multi-stakeholder solutions to maximize effectiveness and minimize the cost and increase public trust. Anti-spam measures should provide maximum security with minimum impact on on access and productivity for the users. So what can you do to address spam if you're a user? You can help in the development of best current practices. You can participate in the IETF. There are a number of working groups there working on various solutions to spam. Use the technical solutions. So if you're running a network or you're an email administrator, there are a number of technical solutions where you can install that would reduce the amount of spam you send. Also, ensure your machines are running the latest antivirus and so on to make sure you're not part of a botnet. Create trusted ad hoc groups to address particular threats and to exchange information. Participate in the dialogue and keep your policymakers informed. Keep the discussion going and make sure it's a multi-stakeholder endeavor. There are other opportunities to engage in the global spam discussion. There's a link at the bottom of that page on how you can participate in IGF, best practice discussion. It's always good to see what's going on in the IGF. Those two links are where you can get more information about spam and some of the other activities that ISOC is doing to addressing spam, and more on what we are working on with MOG, LAP, and GSMA, and so on. So with that, I'd like to stop, and I'll leave the contact information for Karen and myself. If you have further questions, I'll be happy to take them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin. So the next speaker will be Professor Sally. So Professor Nabil Saleh will speak about proof of concept, building a strong security architecture with open source solution. I'm looking for your bio. So Professor Saleh is head of computer science department at Navy Academy in Tunisia. He is the project head of research unit S3, security of critical system, sécurité des systèmes sensibles. He is a senior consultant at Agence Nationale de la Sécurité Informatique, ANSI, in Tunisia. Project head of the project of assistance in the implementation of NG, stand for Nigeria, CERT, National Nigeria CCERT. He is also president of the National Commission in charge of defining the National Cybersecurity Strategy 2015-2020 of Tunisia, and he is founder of NC and TUNCERT, and one of the dinosaurs still alive in the CCERT community.
Thank you. The dinosaur will try to be a rabbit because the presentation is really long. I don't want to pass the message about the interest of the open source field and tools. So, as you see, the plan is a little bit charged. We try about open source and cybersecurity. After that, we try the challenge to building a strong security architecture based on open source solutions. So we'll go through all this field rapidly. And also, to talk about tools for the implementation of the CERT activity. Some of them at least at the time. About open source and security, this is a beautiful word, especially for our country when we have limited financial fund. We have always this problem of tools when we reflect to launch like CCIRT, like any project. Open source tools, you have free license that economical problem can help our consonant. The code are provided, the respect of standard, good GUI and good community assistance. There is contractual assistance now. Also, we talk a little bit about open core for the best. So, free license. Security is global or not, so we have to fix and to have the various type of tool and the needed number of license. So we need big budget license, especially. The solution is sometimes open source in complement to the most of commercial products. So this will permit to have the cardinal and qualitative completeness of deployed solution in your information system or CCS information system. Source code are available. This we cannot talk about now. As you know, cybersecurity is part of national security, and we cannot afford tools that we don't know what's inside. Did they do correctly what they should do? Did they do only what they should do sometimes? This is paranoia, but with open source, you can verify the community at least, verify what is doing the product and how well he's doing it. Also, perennity is offered, like it was demonstrated for the various tools existent in the open source field. Now we'll try to put this challenge very rapidly. Can we build a strong security architecture with open source solution? It can be a kind of CCIRT implementation, like we have a CERT LAN server, a web server, and external, let's say, segment for generally are hosted by another entity. So first of all is how to protect the external perimeter, how to segment your LAN into security zone. Like you all people know, DMZ, of course, firewall. Then you can segment put the CCIRT incident handling in one DMZ, the other team in another, can subdivide more, server, also the hosting entity in other DMZ, web server, and its database. So this, we have example of open source pfSense, which has no complex with commercial products. It's stateful firewall with very rich filtering capability. He offers high availability. Sometimes we say open source doesn't offer that. This is offered also for firewall that doesn't offer it. Basically, you can introduce it by other open source solutions, like Heartbeat and so on. Often VPN, all the functionality, no complex with any commercial firewall, and free. And source code offered. Sometimes we need this high security to have two firewalls. As you know, a firewall is an application, has hole, has vulnerability, and sometimes you want two fronts in a very secure architecture. There is no problem also with open source. You see the offer that exists. Also some next generation open source that integrates, like needs IDS functionality and the deep packet inspection inside. And you see the richness of the offer. Those are not the full spectrum of products that exist. You have the choice. There is also big panoply of complementary tools that permit you to make interaction between firewall needs, to verify your configuration, and so on. Various tools, complementary, developed by the open source community. Second challenge concerning how we can protect against now attacks that pass through firewall, of course, because we have open ports. So needs and hash ADS. And here we see, if you want to have, protection against also internal attack, you have to deploy at least 11 licenses for this little architecture of needs. We can, of course, make a next generation firewall and show you the cost of being well secured. We have SNOT, it's the best NIPS. But only a little problem now, you should pay only if you have immediate signature. You have only a month -1 signature free, but you have to pay, but not very expensive, around $500. annually to have them updated regularly. Also, if that was a reaction from the open source community, we now offer free fresh signatures, but not as well as offered by Snort. As you know, Snort was acquired by Cisco, by SourceFire. The developer was acquired by Cisco to show you how best are those tools with ClamAV and other needs. You have Bro, which permits to detect zero-day attacks because you have the behavioral approach. Also, he take the signature of Snort, so we have the two approach. Of course, there is problem of false positive Berkeley learning mode. It was developed by Berkeley. It's open to you to use it. Suricata, if you have a concern about high performance, it's a very good multi-thread product. The problem we have with needs is we can offload them with a lot of false attacks, and then we can pass our attacks inside. This is more resilient. For host intrusion detector that you place at the workstation level, you have OSSEC, which may permit detection of rootkit, log analysis, file integrity check, and so on, and exist in all platforms. We can have the two needs, hash ADS, and have correlation inside, like Prelude. But only here the problem is they have offer you for open source solution only 10 for 10 hosts only. Well, user access control, we have very good product for SSO, single sign-on, like Case, like Shibboleth. Case was developed by Yale University. It's very used in the shared environment in the university, but it's very expensive to implement such kind of user authentication solution. Of course, you can have URL filtering and control where your users are going with Squid Guard, which an add-on to Squid that permit to control the web access. Protection against malicious code, which is not from the best, but we have some good proxy, let's say email and web proxy. ClamAV is one of the best antivirus engines, which are developed also by SourceFire and acquired by Cisco, Razorback by the same company, which permit to make a solution for advanced persistent threat. For the workstation solution, that's perhaps the inconvenient. We have not very well-maintained solution and signature concerning the product and the signature concerning the version of operating system, but still exists some version. There is some freeware like Immunet based on the open source ClamAV engine, but it's freeware, it's not an open source product. I limit my presentation to open source product. Anti-spam, spam assassin, which is used by very ISP, a lot of ISP, and people know it. We have an alternative. We can integrate antivirus gateway solution, plugin ClamAV, like ISSP, Amavis. You see the offer is multiple. VPN, SSL VPN with OpenVPN, which implement the based on OpenSSL. You tell me this problem. But it's a very good product. There is also some firmware solution. We are using a Wi-Fi router and a lot of firmware-based solution. For IPsec, we have two approaches. The two get out from FreeS1, but one covers some operating system, the other not, and they are complementary. And we have clients for the two that can work with those IPsec gateway solution. Of course, all people know GPG, with various versions for Windows, for macOS. So concerning protection of corporate web server, if you have a very sensitive web server, we need web application firewall, WAF, reverse proxy sometimes, introduce HTTPS. All those solutions are also offered. We have mode security with 3 approach proposed. It can also make a virtual patching of your web server if you have problem in your application. And you have the negative security model, which is behavioral, and the positive one, which is strong one, can limit to only permitted transaction. So various approach. SSL, we have 2 tools, one based on SSLA, one based on OpenSSL. Secure platform, also we have a lot. SU Linux, people know it, the old one. AppArmor, which make it more easier to configure with the learning mode. We have Linux vServer, last one, CubeOS. It's not a multi-user system, but it's based on an original approach to security by isolation. So you have the choice. Honeypot, which exists only in the open source field. This permits you to attract and jail intruder and artifact also, and to return them to a virtual network and can follow them if necessary, if you can deploy this effort. You have the HoneyJ project that a lot of CCIRT has established the honeypot under that project with various honeypot solutions, high interaction honeypot or low interaction honeypot. Excuse me, I go fast, but if you have questions, you can return. Security assessment tool, so vulnerability scanner. We have OpenVAS after Nessus became commercial, because it was open source when 2008 became commercial. There was this fork of Nessus will permit now that we have an automated scanning tool with very rich functionality inside. There is another SARA which stopped only in 2009. You see the window is closing a little bit, but we still have some distribution, but necessitate some expertise to make, vulnerability scanning, like all people know the Kali Linux and the old backtrack with thousands of tools for making pen testing, but also vulnerability assessment. Metasploit, if you want to also process it for write, exploit, test them, and so on, with various versions. There is an open source one, which is good. There is professional one we have to pay. So administration tool also we have. If you want to have centralized administration, a single console, you integrate your various security tools with webmin, which with secured administration, the most secure administration possible. Of course, a lot of people know about OSIM, which offer also correlation. And this one, the base of, for the Tunisian CERT to establish its monitoring system and to have correlation to detect cyber attack, big cyber attack. To integrate a lot of tools, Node, Recat, and so on, and top for DDoS, and so on. Various powerful tools for log processing, ACID-based, SAG and Swatch, and others. One of the best that exist. And much more. If you need NAS, we have solution. OpenFiler, FreeNAS. If you need also video control solution, you have free solution, iSpice on Minder. If you also need tools for auditing your source code and try to find the most flaws that you have in your source code, you have a lot of auditing source code solutions, especially for C++ and Java. So I think we tried to make this proof. We proved a little bit the interest about this open source solution field, which, as I said, is free. It's not the expenses, of course, in training, internal expense. So sometimes also there is some paid commercial training and commercial support. Now the problem is we came to what we call the open core. With some of the service you have to pay. And also it came two divergent solution, one open source community and one which become commercial. It's a danger for the open source field. Is it good for people who need support, who need nonsense? It's a question that has to be discussed. More we can discuss that. A rapid overview about open security tools for CCIRT activity. For the alert and warning process, this interests people that are interested by CCIRT. You have the tool, in fact, is Taranis, it's developed by the NL GovCert, which fit perfectly all the process that permit you to produce your mailing list, security mailing list. It helps you really, it's gather information from more than 900 sources, mailing list or news, and can permit you to access the information, analyze it, to write the message and publish it if you want, with respect for all the the norms. This one, PHP list, can be good for new CSIRT to follow who people are opening their mailing list. You cannot use the publishing of Taranis, but use that one in the first step, and to follow which people, how many people are opening your email, are reading them, which links are clicked, and so on. Can be, you see the diversity of tools that can be offered. But this is not specifically for CSIRT, but is very interesting for when starting these services of alert and warning. You have also open source intelligence platform. It's open source also. It permits you to follow a little bit what hackers are saying, what information is getting about the country, analyze them. All hidden information, you can track it and be aware about it, which are used by intelligence service and so on, those kind of tools. But exists also in open source field. Incident handling management, there is a RTR tool which we discussed. It is not from the best. The other one is really the best. It's up to you, but as you see, all the workflow of the incident handling is implemented. It's by TF-CERT, also now pursued by TF-CERT. There is other tools like GLPI, which is an information resource manager, in fact, an ETL compliant service desk, what you use it in Tunisian CERT because it's really easy to amend and to parameterize and very rich functionality and adapted to incident handling activity. For digital forensic investigation, I talk only about live DVD distribution, open source distribution. I don't talk about freeware, there is a lot, but let's concentrate on open source solution. You have DFF, Digital Forensic Framework, which permits you to, preserve the digital chain of custody for Windows, Linux forensics, memory forensics, recovery of hidden file, carving, and so on, and it permits to read all digital forensic file format. You have DEFT, which also have support also, as you see, for mobile forensics, for Android and iOS logical acquisition, with open source intelligence, Skype extractor, and a lot of tools, including, in fact, those are distributions that regroup a lot of tools, but sometimes offer also good framework for combining them and good graphical interface. Sun Institute have a SIFT product with a lot of tools available. Kane, if you want another distribution, in Italian one. We have a window version with different plain sight. This is for beginners. For example, when you start your activity, it's a very good GUI with a little tool, but permit you at least to enter the field, and after that you go to whatever tools or whatever distribution. The start is the most important step. So I will finish, sorry for, and much more. There is other, Kali have a special distribution for forensics. Thank you for your attention. And